And welcome back to Wise Guys. These guys know sports here live on the Worldwide Sports Network. I want to welcome to the show. He's a
rental house regrets,
sports writer at Sports Illustrated, also a host of the Red Diamond Report podcast. I want to welcome to the show Wilton Jackson II. What's up, Wilton? How you doing tonight?
Doing good, man. Glad to be on.
Definitely, man. Glad to have you on, Wilton. Let's get right to it, Wilton. Let's start off in the NFL, and let's discuss the AFC. In the AFC, we got the Chiefs leading the AFC West at 9-3. The Dolphins are having a great season under Tua at 8-4, despite their loss to the 49ers last week. And then we got the defending AFC champs, the Cincinnati Bengals, 8-4, fresh off a win over the Chiefs in Week 13. Right. And we got also the Bills, who are the number one seed in the AFC. So right now, in your opinion, Wilton, who should be considered the favorites in the AFC?
I mean, honestly, man, you really have to consider the Chiefs and the Bills. I mean, who doesn't like the duel of those two teams when they play each other? You just never know what's going to happen, right? It always feels like it comes down to the last minute play. I'm not gonna lie, just dealing with the idea of being a sports reporter, but also being a fan. The Chiefs are the team for me. Like, it's something about Patrick Mahomes. It's just that magic, man. He always finds a way to get it done in most cases. But that doesn't mean that I have, there's no disrespect to the Bills. But at the same time, there's some other teams that, they could still give them a run for their money. Like I said, we've seen teams, come through the season in that latter part of the stretch of the season and always makes a run. And, you'll see those teams kind of step up when they need to. It can make those major runs in the postseason. So you can never count anybody out, even if it is just getting to the end of the season.
Well, you actually led me to my next question for you, because I'm not a Bengals fan, but I live here in Cincinnati. Yeah. And so you saying that you believe that the Chiefs and the Bills are the favorites in the AFC and not the defending AFC champion Bengals. I think some Bengal fans might think that's a little disrespectful, Wilton. You kind of sleeping on the Bengals there a little bit, my brother.
And here's the thing. As somebody who went to LSU and a Joe Burrow fan, I should probably be Team Bengals all the way. But in all honesty, like I like the work that they've done, that they did last year. I like the work that they've been able to put together this year. But I just, and when it comes down to it, I wouldn't bet going up against putting Joe Burrow against Patrick Mahomes this season around, or putting the Bengals up against the Bills again. I think that I would take my chances with going with the Chiefs. So as you can see, I'm kind of leaning towards the Chiefs.
Yeah, I hear you, because Joe Burrow is 3-0 against Patrick Mahomes.
Right? No, I do.
Yeah, and the last 3 times they played, Wilton, the Bengals beat the Chiefs, and last year the Bengals overcame 11-point deficits to come back and beat the Chiefs. So I hear. I just think the Bengals, and I'm not a Bengal fan. Like I said, let me be clear. I am not a Bengal fan at all. I like the Packers, Wilton. Just so you can know.
Oh gosh, well, I know you're not happy right now. Then
I'm not happy right now. I'm not, and I'm honestly happy, Wilton, that we got a bye week this week, because I don't have to suffer this week. I can just watch football and I can be a fan. I ain't gotta have my heart in it. But I believe the Bengals match up well with the Chiefs, Wilton, because offensively they got Joe Burrow. I think Joe Burrow is one of the best young quarterbacks in the NFL. At receiver, you got Jamar Chase, you got T. Higgins, you got Tyler Boyd, and then in the backfield, P. Ryan's been playing well lately, and they got Joe Mixon as well. I think they match up well with the Chiefs.
Mind you, I never said that they didn't match up well with these particular teams. I just said if I had to bet my bank account in the playoffs with a play on the line, who's going to win it? Right now, I'm not. Again, they had, like you said, you've given me the facts to say that they've beaten them 3 times in a row. I get it, but I'm still not betting. I'm not putting my money on them.
I get it. So let's talk about these great young quarterbacks in the NFL. It's a lot of them, Wilton. We got Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, and you can even throw Tua in there, because Tua's having his best season so far of his career. But which of these young quarterbacks are you taking if you were starting a franchise and can have any quarterback of your choice?
Ooh, that's a tough one, because all of them are good.
They are.
In terms, can we put them? Do we have to put all of them in one category?
Nah, you could just get to pick one. You could pick one. Like, who would you pick to start a franchise with?
I'm going to be biased and probably still go Patrick Mahomes, but a second behind Patrick Mahomes, I really love the play of Justin Herbert. Like I like his decision making. Obviously, he's made some errant throws in certain situations late down the stretch. But I mean, he's only been in the league a few years. Give him a few more years, and he's going to be dangerous. Like that's going to be a LA Chargers team that's going to go the distance. I really like his play, but I really love the play that Tua has put up, that he's put out this year.
Yeah.
You're talking about a Dolphins team. Obviously, we know all the issues that happened with them last year. And seeing them bounce back and have the success that they've had this year. Obviously, Tua gets those weapons to help him this year. And shout out to Mike McDaniel for really putting together a system in which he can thrive. Because I think that when most of us saw Tua go down with that horrendous injury, me personally, I didn't know how long he was going to be out. But to see him come back and bounce back from that and really look confident. I mean, granted, the last couple of weeks, he's been a little shaky, of course, with Miami. But as far as like overall compared to what they've been in previous years, I'm very, very proud of Tua's growth.
And to your point, Wilton, before Mike McDaniel took over, it was Brian Flores. And Flores, he didn't believe in Tua.
Right.
And honestly, there were times last year, remember, where Ryan Fitzpatrick was finishing games for the Dolphins. Yeah, Fitzmagic. he was finishing games for the Dolphins instead of it being Tua. So I think it really speaks to how McDaniel believes in Tua, and that's why we've seen the progression this season compared to the first couple years of his career.
Absolutely. It goes without saying. You can be as talented as you want to be, but it's nothing like having someone to have confidence in you. If the person if your coach doesn't have confidence in you 9 times out of 10, you're probably not going to have confidence in yourself. That also means 9 times out of 10, the players in that locker room are not going to have confidence in you either. So you always want the person or the people in charge to believe in you. That changes the whole locker room dynamics. That puts faith in the person that's going to be leading the team, because we know the NFL is a quarterback's league. Without a good quarterback, look at the Saints. And I'm gonna just be honest, I'm a Saints fan, diehard Saints fan.
Okay.
But Drew Brees, we have not been the same since he left. I'm just being realistic, and that's no shame to the quarterbacks that we have, no shame to Jameis Winston, none of them. It's just, or Andy Dalton, but it's just the fact that, hey, you gotta have a quarterback to lead your team. You can have all the skill position players. Yep. You can have all the players that's in the trenches. You can have all the best defenders. And like I said, just going back to the Saints, pretty much great defense. But if you don't have a quarterback, if you don't have a franchise leader to lead your team, you're not going to be successful.
I agree 1,000%, Wilton. And that's honestly why a lot of people have reservations when it comes to the 49ers. Because I think the 49ers are loaded, Will. Not the receiver. They got Debo. They got Ayuk. They got Kittle. And Will, they had the nerve, the audacity to trade for Christian McCaffrey. I couldn't believe it. I said, they're going to trade for Christian McCaffrey and add him? And then that defense is elite. It's elite. But the questions about the 49ers is, can they get quality quarterback play in playoff moments to get over that hump and win the Super Bowl? They did get to the Super Bowl a couple years ago, but when Jimmy G had to make the play, he couldn't get it done.
Right. And then, look at the issues that are going on with them. Obviously, I'm sure you saw that the injury with Jimmy Garoppolo is not going to be as bad as they projected it to be. But of course, you have Brock Purdy. But at this point of the season, as we just alluded to, we're talking about going into week 14. You basically have, like, including this week, 4 or 5 more weeks in the season, and you have to be playing your best football. It doesn't really necessarily matter if you went 9-0 or you won 9 straight games to start the season. This is where it starts mattering the most. Just like in college football, when the month of November is important, December and the first week in January is extremely important when it comes to the NFL. So
Absolutely.
We'll find out a lot about what the 49ers are going to do. And as you alluded to, they have all the weapons to be successful. They have the weapons to go the distance when it comes to being in the NFC. But depending on what that situation looks like at quarterback, that's going to determine a lot.
Absolutely. Let's switch over to the NFC. And obviously, the number 1 seed in the NFC is the Philadelphia Eagles. They are led by MVP candidate Jalen Hurts at 11-1. The Vikings are the 2 seed in the conference at 10-2 with Kirk Cousins. Cowboys are 9-3, and they fresh off a 54-point performance against the Colts on Sunday Night Football in Dallas. And they might possibly sign Odell, although I think his reports this week about how they're concerned with his health. And then we just talked about the 49ers. So who do you believe should be the favorites in the NFC?
I think in the NFC, you have to go ahead and still give it to the Eagles. I mean, shout out to Jalen Hurts in the play that he's been able to do this season. A lot of people constantly still doubt Jalen Hurts, even with what they've been able to do just alone in this season. And just something to mention that when you look at it, you talk about number one seed right now, they have a chance to potentially clinch a playoff spot this week if they get the win, or if they tie on Sunday, or San Francisco or Seattle loses, they'll get that playoff spot. They'll get that number one. They won't get the number one seed, but they get that playoff spot. And then you talk about a Minnesota team, a Vikings team. If they win or they tie, they get a playoff spot. So in terms of right now of where things are, I always stand by where things are right now. I would have to still go with the Eagles as being as the top team in the NFC.
See, Wilton, honestly, before Jimmy G's injury, I thought the 49ers was a team to beat in the NFC, because I felt like if the 49ers have to go on the road to Philly or to Minnesota, I like my chances with Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers. I really, that's how I felt.
Absolutely. Like I said, with the weapons they have, and then just when they got Christian McCaffrey, before we even were dealing with this quarterback situation, of course, the Garoppolo injury, I mean, they're literally unstoppable.
Yeah.
When you think about that, you got Deebo Samuel, obviously one of the most dynamic playmakers in the NFL, and you add a Christian McCaffrey to that, and as you mentioned, the wide receivers they have, the defense that they have, all you need is a quarterback that's going to lead your offense. Like, I mean, talking about scary good. They would give Philly a run for their money if they had to play a game, if Philly had to come to San Francisco in a playoff game.
I agree 1,000%. And I'm not honest, and this is not because I'm a Packers fan. I promise it ain't, Wilton. But I really don't believe in Minnesota like that. I don't. I love Justin. Okay, you don't either. Okay. You're on the same.
I am a big Justin Jefferson fan.
Me too.
Now, as far as Kirk Cousins, if I can't see him past the door, I'm not. My trust for him is not going to be that big.
Me too. I'm the same way, man. I think in big games, when the lights are at its brightest, Kirk Cousins folds. He folds. I've seen it happen too many times.
We all have seen it.
We've seen it. And I like Adam Thielen too. I like Thielen. But
one of the clutchest slot receivers that you'll ever be around, or even just to play the game in the NFL.
For sure. But I think in the playoffs, I believe that they could slip up against one of those wild card teams in the NFC, and I wouldn't be surprised if they lost. I just wouldn't be surprised. If Philly lost their first playoff game, I would be surprised. If the Vikings lost their first playoff game, I wouldn't be shocked one bit.
Right. Well, I think a lot of people, that goes back to the point I was just making. A lot of people don't have high expectations for Jalen Hurts. As the Eagles continue to win, as Jalen continues to have success, it continues to build. But I can guarantee you, at any point within these last few weeks that Philly loses, at any point, whether it's a big loss or a small loss, the narrative will go back to, well, he's not ready. What did he do wrong? Yeah. Are the Eagles the team to still beat in the NFC? Can they get past the Dallas? Can they get past the Vikings? Can they get, what I mean? Like, can they get past the 49ers? Can they get past the favorite teams in the NFC on the road to a potential Super Bowl? I promise you that's what it's going to be. But as long as he continues to win, progress, and they're not slowing down, I like the Eagles' chances.
I agree. The Hall of Fame quarterbacks have struggled this year, Wilton. Aaron Rodgers got 22 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. The Packers are 5-8 on the season. Tom Brady got 16 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Buccaneers are 6-6. The only reason why the Buccaneers are considered a playoff team right now is because they play in the NFC South. Let's be honest.
Oh, absolutely. Which is a division that's wide open right now.
Wide open. But what do you believe is the biggest reason for the legendary quarterbacks' struggles so far this season?
I think a lot of it has to do with, some of the players that they have around them. Specifically, I'm going to talk about Green Bay for a second. So I don't want to make you mad. I know you're a Green Bay fan. I mean, it says something when your franchise receiver, Devontae Adams, goes away. Now, granted, obviously, when you're a good quarterback, you're going to adjust. You're going to still be able to make the plays, or you're going to attempt to still make the plays, put the ball where it needs to be put. But this also shows that when you have young receivers like a Christian Watson and, Lazard, even though he's not necessarily a rookie or young, he's been in the league for some years, this is not Devontae Adams. And what it also shows me is that a lot of times, Aaron Rodgers, you are great. Hall of Fame worthy quarterback, will for sure get into the Hall of Fame. But a lot of times, well, not a lot of times, sometimes the wide receivers make the quarterback look that much better.
Absolutely.
When you have a dynamic receiver who can go after some of those balls that you may overthrow or that you may put in a position that the defensive back or the cornerback can still, have access to, but that wide receiver comes up with the play, kind of like what Justin Jefferson does sometimes. Like you have to pay those guys. You have to credit those guys. You want those guys in your franchise. And so I think the biggest thing with Aaron Rodgers is the fact that he had to really, I feel like, adjust to the players that are around him. Of course, he's been banged up. He's had some injuries, but when hasn't Aaron Rodgers had injuries? That's not an excuse for somebody like him.
Right. I agree. And for me, honestly, Wilton, I'm still not over Davante Adams departing from Green Bay. I ain't over it. I couldn't believe that we decided to trade him. I couldn't believe it. And honestly, Wilton, though, I blame Aaron Rodgers. I think the reason why Davante left Green Bay was because of Aaron Rodgers being so indecisive. Because I think Davante was looking at it like, okay, do I want to play with Aaron Rodgers for 3 years, or do I want to go play with Derek Carr, my boy, who I played with at the collegiate level for maybe 5 years, at Fresno State, or do I want to go play with him for maybe 5 years or 6 years? I think Davante Adams chose, I'd rather go play with Derek Carr, who I know is going to show up each year ready to ball out at a high level. With comparison to Aaron Rodgers, every time the offseason roll around, Aaron Rodgers talk about retiring. It happens every year, Wilton. He always talk about retiring. He never wants to commit. And I think Davante, while Aaron was going through all his tactics, I think Davante felt underappreciated by that Packers organization as well, and they forgot about prioritizing their star receiver. To that you say what?
How many times, and you just alluded to it, how many times have we seen Aaron Rodgers do this before?
Yeah.
Several times. And it comes at a point where a player gets in a certain portion of their career, and it's not always just about the money. It's not always just about, okay, hey, I want to play for this particular player or play for this particular team. Sometimes it is. I would say that obviously I don't think he wanted to leave, where he even said that he didn't necessarily want to leave Green Bay or not play with Aaron Rodgers. But it's like you said, you always have what I've learned about just life in general, in my life, and even these athletes' lives as well, is that you have to always do what's best for you, because at the end of the day, all of this is a business. One.
Great.
Two, beyond that, look at the fact that yes, he had that chemistry and had played with the quarterback at Fresno State. That's two. And then he wanted to get closer to his family. So if you have a guy in Aaron Rodgers who's not making a decision right away, and it's like, okay, here's something to weigh. I played with him at Fresno State. We have chemistry. I'm not necessarily starting over from scratch. I'm getting a major contract from this. On top of that, I get to spend more time with my family. How many times have we seen players talk about they don't get a chance to spend time with their family? We're just talking about immediate family. We're not even talking about other family members. How many times do we hear that? We hear that a lot. So when you look at that decision, he made the decision that was best for him. Well, were fans upset? Probably so, as they should be. But at the end of the day, all of these decisions come down to understanding how business works. And as someone who's Aaron Rodgers right now, this is possibly some of the reasons why he's dealing with these issues, because his receivers are younger, but it's a choice that he made.
Agreed. And I'll take it a step farther, Wilton. Let's be honest. If you ask me, would I rather play in Green Bay compared to Las Vegas? The decision easy for me. It's easy for me.
You got casinos?
Yeah.
Cold weather.
Yeah. Like we got palm trees in Vegas. We got nightclubs. I mean, Vegas, you can literally do whatever you want. Whatever you want to do,
absolutely.
You can do it. So, I mean, honestly, I didn't blame Davante for departing Green Bay for Las Vegas, just from a standpoint of it's warmer weather. It's warmer weather and more to do. So I get it. Like I said, I understand it. I still think Davante Adams, he's playing right now. I still think Davante Adams is one of the best receivers in the NFL.
Sure.
And I think for him too, though, Wilton, he had an adjustment period with Derek Carr, because he realized, oh, this ain't A-Rod. Yeah, there's a significant drop off when it comes to production. And I think Davante Adams realized that too earlier in the season.
I remember during the summer when all the drama was kind of unfolding after the trade had been made, and Davante was saying like, hey, the two quarterbacks are the same and they play similar, but Aaron Rodgers can put that extra zip on it. I'm thinking to myself, when you start the season and when you get in a real playing time situation, you are going to quickly figure out that this guy, no disrespect to him at all, great quarterback, but he's not Aaron Rodgers, but vice versa. Alan Lazard, Christian Watson. They're not Devontae Adams.
They're not.
And so it's really, one drops off here, one drops off here. But over time, you would like to think that as each player continues to build chemistry with their particular, in Devontae's case, building the chemistry in Las Vegas, and of course, Aaron Rodgers building that chemistry with his receivers in Green Bay, that things will get better. I just don't think any of us predicted that Green Bay would have the lack of success that they've had this year.
I agree. And honestly, like for me, I think we've seen it over the last 4 weeks, Wilton. Christian Watson, the rookie receiver, he's starting to come into his own. He's playing way better. He's caught a touchdown pass in the Packers' last 4 games. And before he got injured, I like the way Romeo Doubs was playing. So I like the duo with Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs, heading into next year. So maybe they can be better offensively, because I don't think we're going to make the playoffs. I hope a miracle can happen, because I do think the NFC is wide open, because anything could happen this year. But honestly, I think the Packers, they have a team that could be successful next year, because they still got Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. And I think that's the strength of their football team.
I think right now I don't have the Packers making the playoffs, but to your point, I do have them I do have them having the pieces that they need to make the playoffs next year. This is not necessarily a team that lacks talent by no stretch of the imagination.
Agreed.
And I think that, again, going back to that point of no one expected them to lack the chemistry issues. Everyone thought that the Aaron Rodgers that we've seen, the MVP Aaron Rodgers that we've seen all these years, is going to be the same Aaron Rodgers that we're going to see this year. And it just didn't work that way. Teams get better each year. Each year, I don't care how great you are. Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, when Drew Brees was playing for the Saints, any great quarterback, each year you have to continue to grow and get better, because defenses are getting smarter. So what that means is, when you talk about an Aaron Rodgers and the receivers that he has, that means like, okay, when defenses scheme for you, when they plan for you, they're not planning for Devontae Adams anymore. They know that Devontae Adams is an elite target. They know that they have to scheme for him different. They have to potentially double team him. Or if you're going to have that zone coverage over the top, you got to make sure that it's accounted for. That's not to say that the other wide receivers aren't going to be accounted for, but you may be able to win some of those one-on-one matchups, or some of those zones, defenses that you have to deal with those receivers. But it's different.
He's a sports writer at Sports Illustrated, host of the Red Diamond Report podcast. He is Wilton Jackson II. Wilton, let's talk about the NFL MVP real quick. I believe you got Mahomes, you got Hurts, you got Burrow, and you got Tua as well. Who is your NFL MVP so far this season?
I think I'm going to go with – it's so hard, because I think right now I'm torn between two. I think I'm torn between Hurts and Mahomes. And I think that for me, I think it's going to come down to the remaining portion of the season. I really do. I think that if Jalen Hurts continues to play at the elite level that he's playing for the Eagles right now, and they go into the playoffs hot, continuing this streak, I think he has a really good chance to become the NFL's MVP. In terms of Patrick Mahomes, he's going to be my close second. Obviously, he's going to be in most people's, favorite to win the NFL MVP, and rightfully so, with the work and the body of work and the stats that he's put together this year. But I think my candidate right now at this current point in the season would be Jalen Hurts.
Last question on the NFL, Wilton. Give me your Super Bowl prediction. Give me your team that makes it from the AFC and the team that makes it from the NFC, and who wins the Super Bowl. Who you got? I know it's hard, man. It's tough.
It is. It is, man. Because what I have not mentioned to you in all of these questions is a curveball. And when I say it's a curveball for many reasons. I'm a Saints fan, but I'm not going to deny and say that I'm not liking what I'm seeing from the Cowboys.
Oh, man. Okay.
And it's like I said, it depends on how they finish the season, but I like their chances if Dak Prescott is healthy. As long as he's healthy, as long as the offense is efficient, because I know Michael Parsons can impact a game alone by himself.
Yeah.
I know that. I'm not worried about their defense per se. I'm worried about if Dak is going to be the Dak that we see that's consistent and is firing on all cylinders.
But they ain't been since the 90s, though, Wilton. It's been a while for them, man. Them brothers always come up short. You know that every year in the playoffs, man, I see the Cowboys and I'm like, They're gonna come up short. They always come up short. That's all I wanted to say, man. They always
which is why I won't put them as my favorite right now.
Okay.
For me, right now, NFC, I'm gonna go with the Eagles.
Okay.
That's gonna be my one in the NFC. In the AFC, it's very tough, but I'm gonna stick with the team that I've been rocking with since the beginning of the season, and that's the Chiefs.
Okay.
But I do feel like they can be booted from that over the next couple weeks.
Chiefs, Eagles. I love that. Jalen Hurts versus Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. I would definitely love that. So let's switch gears. Well, let's talk about the NBA. So it's early in the season. The Celtics are 21-5, and they first in the Eastern Conference. They blew out the Phoenix Suns last night. At one point,
gosh, that was ugly.
It was ugly. At one point, it was up 50. They fresh off an NBA Finals appearance. The Bucks are second in the East, led by Giannis, and just recently got back Chris Middleton. The Cavs, they got a great backcourt with Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell, and they third in the Eastern Conference so far this season. Who is your favorite in the Eastern Conference this year?
I think I'm gonna have to go with Boston. And
okay.
I just love the fact of the way Jayson Tatum continues to grow, man. Like you people forget that when they made it to the level of success they had in the bubble, like these, like Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown were really, really, really young.
They were
like really young. So to see them continue to grow and thrive, like Jayson Tatum is playing at an all-time high right now. And granted, last year it was Boston's defense that was elite. Getting them those additional wins down the stretch because they had issues where they struggled defensively in the beginning of the season, but then down the stretch, going into the playoffs and in the finals, defense was everything for them. Well, this year it's been the 3-point shooting. I mean, it's been lights out play from Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown, and I like the chances with Boston right now. But I also like the fact of a team. I knew when Donovan Mitchell went to Cleveland, like I watched that matchup closely between them and the Lakers the other night. And I like the way Cleveland has been able to, I guess in a sense, remain relevant. Like, granted, they had success last year, made the playoffs when they did, but I just love the fact that they're remaining relevant. And Donovan Mitchell changes that whole franchise, and I really think they could potentially make some noise. Now, granted, that's not saying that they're going to win. I'm not going to put them as the team to win the NBA Finals, but at the same time, I like what they're doing so far in the season. And the season's still young.
Yeah, for sure. Now, for me, Will, I'm more of a fan of players in the NBA, not teams necessarily. And I'm a fan of Jayson Tatum, and I love the way Jaylen Brown has ascended this year. And to your point, remember that 1 year they got to the conference finals against LeBron. Now, LeBron beat them in 7 games, but I thought the Celtics were the better team than the Cavaliers were. It's just the Cavaliers had the best player on the planet, and LeBron James wasn't going to go down. And I thought that was a great experience for Tatum and Brown. And to your point, they went to the bubble. They lost in the conference finals again that year to, I think it was Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat. Because remember, they lost to them. And they have been knocking on the door for the last 4 or 5 years. And I thought last year, getting to the NBA Finals, gaining that experience, going up against Steph and the Warriors, it's going to help the Celtics as we get later into the season and get close to the playoffs, because I love, like you said, the way they can shoot the perimeter shots with Tatum, with Brown. They got White, they got Grant Williams as well. And at some point, they're going to get Robert Williams back. And he's a great rim protector for them.
They have the perfect balance of scoring as well as role players that know how to play their roles. And I think that experience that they had playing against the Warriors, really just the playoffs last year in general, they had to go through a tough Eastern Conference stretch just to even get to the finals. I think that experience is going to really help, shape them as they continue to go throughout the season and even into this year's playoffs.
I agree. Let's transition to the Western Conference. We got the Golden State Warriors. They struggled out the gate, Wilton, and 13-13 so far, 10th in the Western Conference. I like the way the Pelicans are playing. They are 16-8 on the season. And then you got the Suns at 16-9. And then you got the Clippers that still got Paul George and Kawhi. Nuggets still got Jokic and Murray. I think Luka is a top 5 player in the NBA. Who do you believe are the favorites in the Western Conference?
Well, right now, the way it looks, and you just alluded to it, I'm looking at the list of standings right now. You have the Pelicans at number 1, the Suns, the Grizzlies, the Nuggets, and the sleeper team that everybody, I'm sure, is sleeping on is the Sacramento Kings, which I would sleep on probably the first 2.5, 3 weeks of the season.
Me too.
I mean, think about it. When I hear about the Sacramento Kings or I think about the Kings, I think of all the legends that played for them. The Peja Stojakovic, the Vlade Divac. Like, I'm thinking that's the last time in my mind that they were like truly relevant. So
Yeah.
to see them, being in the spot that they are right now, again, very early in the season, but I like the pieces that they have. They have a young core that's constantly continue to get better. But the one team I still feel like that's going to essentially make it to the finals. I know they started off rough, but I'm still keeping my chances on the Warriors. I
Okay.
really am. Like
Okay.
I just cannot bet my money against Steph Curry. I can't.
Okay. Okay.
Right now. I mean, now I will say this too, though. I am very intrigued by the Pelicans. I like the way that they're playing. I like the way that they move the ball. I love the way. Shout out to Zion for
Yeah.
the way he came back. Being in a dominant space, and then some of the young players like Jose Alvarado, like people underestimate his ability. Like
Yeah.
dude can go.
Yeah.
Then you have Devontae Graham. Can also go. Herb Jones, like he if I want somebody to defend on my team, I want him on my team. And then, of course, the obvious Brandon Ingram,
Yeah.
a bucket, can
Yeah.
go get one at any point in time.
For sure. And I love their trio. Well, and I love Brandon Ingram, CJ McCollum, and Zion Williamson. I love that trio.
Yep.
And I think they definitely are sleepers in the Western Conference. I know I may surprise you with this one, Wilton. At some point, Kawhi and Paul George got to pull through, don't they? I mean, at some point, the Clippers got to get to the finals and finally win a championship for the Clippers organization. I mean, don't it feel as if at some point it's going to happen?
On paper, it sounds great.
Agreed.
It looks great.
Yeah.
But I mean, until all of them can be on the court, it's almost kind of like, and I know this may not exactly look like this, but think about all the times, and I'm one included, that we thought the Nets would bounce back with all the injuries, whether it was when James Harden was still there, Kyrie was in, James Harden was in, Kevin Durant was in, Kyrie and Irving were out. Like, that's a team that I feel like until everybody is on the court at one time healthy, 1 through 5, we won't ever really truly see what they're capable of.
I agree. I agree, man. I 1,000% agree with you. Who was your early season NBA MVP?
I think I would have to go with Tatum.
Yeah.
Easy.
Okay.
Like I would have to go with Tatum. Just like I said, that's somebody that I have seen and watch continue to elevate right in front of me. Again, he was elite when during those years when he battled against LeBron, when he went to the level of success that he had in the bubble. And then last year, like I can remember telling myself when Boston made it to the finals, or even just when they got to the Eastern Conference Finals, I said, at some point, based off what we've seen from Jayson Tatum, there's going to be some type of fall off. That's not to say he's not a great player, because he's an elite player, very elite. But I feel like there's going to be some type of fall off. And he didn't fall off. I feel like every time I thought he was going to fall off, he continued to elevate. And I really hope that that's a trajectory that we're seeing, that here's a star literally between him and Luka Doncic. I mean, oh my gosh. Like that would be my second person to be MVP, for MVP status.
Agreed. And I feel like this year, Wilton, Tatum is playing with the chip on his shoulder, because you remember last year in the NBA Finals, he got outplayed by Andrew Wiggins. Let's call it what it is. He got outplayed, and it's almost as if he's sending a message. Let me remind everybody who the hell I am. I still am one of the star players in the NBA, and I'm trying to position myself to get my team to an NBA Finals, and this time we ain't gonna come up short. That's kind of like the message that I'm getting from Tatum.
Right, and I like that about Tatum. I like players that play with that grittiness. I like players that have that chip on their shoulder that says, you know what, I have to come out here and prove it every night in, night out, that I'm the best player on the planet, or one of the best players on the planet. It's also one reason why I like a team like the Grizzlies. Ja Morant. I love the way, even though some people say, he's going to have to change and adjust his game in the NBA because he's fragile or whatever, but I love the way that he plays. I like the way that team plays. And so when you're somebody, when you're somebody like Jayson Tatum, that's someone that I just truly love the way that he plays the game of basketball.
He's a sports writer at Sports Illustrated, also host of the Red Diamond Report podcast. He is Wilton Jackson II. A couple more questions for you, when I'm gonna let you go. Who do you believe is the greatest player of all time? Are you an MJ guy? Or are you a LeBron guy? I mean, who do you believe is the GOAT in NBA, man? Who you got? It's tough.
Yes, indeed. That's the toughest of all questions tonight. You say the best for last. I'm gonna say this. For me, the greatest player that I feel like I've watched closely, to me, greatest player that I've watched closely would probably be Michael Jordan.
Okay.
Hands down. Like the greatest player that I've watched. Even, like I said, I'm only 29 years old. So clearly he was playing way before I was alive, of sure. I mean, in some years. And so it's just like, but even going back to watch tape, because I often go back and watch these older players who played, like, the Michael Jordans, the Elgin Baylors, the Wilt Chamberlains, all these players, Oscar Robertson, like these great players. It's just that in my mind, it's just hard to go against Michael Jordan. It is. Yeah. And even thinking about where Kobe sits in that. Like I look at that sometimes now and say, I look back at like Kobe film and really understand and realize like he truly emulated his game from Michael.
He did.
Every piece of the game he emulated from Michael.
He did. And honestly, Wilton, when I started understanding basketball, to me, Kobe was my GOAT. God rest his soul.
Oh, absolutely.
The Black Mamba was a 5-time champion, 2-time Finals MVP. He won an NBA MVP in 2008. I believe that Kobe, you can make an argument that Kobe, this may sound crazy to some people, you can make an argument that Kobe was better than MJ. I've seen Kobe hit tougher shots than Jordan. I'm not saying he's better, but you can make an argument. And I think, Kobe got to the finals 7 times. He got there 7 times. Now, he lost twice, but he got there 7 times. And, I like them both. I love LeBron. I'm gonna give LeBron his respect.
For sure.
But those are my 3 though, Will. My 3 are Kobe, MJ, LeBron. Best 3 players of all time to me.
I think the greatest athlete that we've ever seen, literally, well, for me, in my opinion, I think LeBron for sure has to be there. You talk about a player that's been able to play as long as he has at the level as he has. Like, I think about the way we saw Kobe go out in 2016.
Yeah.
He could still shoot the ball. He was on pretty much one leg in the process, but he went out. He didn't necessarily go out at the top, but he was still in our eyes, he was Kobe Bryant.
Right.
Michael Jordan. I always think about when he went out, the iconic move that Allen Iverson put on him.
Yeah.
Before he went out the league, right? But you're looking at LeBron, almost 40 years old. Like when I go to play pickup games, it's dudes in there that might be 35 and 40 years old that can't move like him.
Yeah.
This dude is moving as if he's like 19, 20, 21.
Yeah.
With ease.
Man.
Might be playing with his son.
Yeah. Man, it's crazy. I agree with that. And that's one thing I give LeBron credit for. I always say, I don't think he's the GOAT. I don't think he's better than Jordan or Kobe. But I think LeBron, his longevity is something that Kobe and Jordan wasn't able to do. They were great, but they didn't do it at an elite level as long as LeBron James did. I always say that and give LeBron, his flowers for that specifically.
For sure.
For sure. One more question for you, though, before you get out of here, Wilton. We got Deion Sanders. Everybody, I got to go there. Everybody, and I'm going to be specific here. Everybody in our community, they've been talking about Deion Sanders. Everybody got different opinions on Deion Sanders. He agreed to become the head coach at Colorado. He went 26-5 in 3 seasons at Jackson State. What is your opinion about the Deion Sanders situation? And do you believe that he did a great job in Jackson State in his 3 seasons while he was there?
This is a very it's an answer that's divided in like 2 or 3 different ways. But to answer your question specifically, did he do a good job in the 3 years that he was there? Absolutely. He did things that no other coach in JSU history has ever done. So that's in a whole basket by itself. There's never been an undefeated season in Jackson State football history. The last time Jackson State won back-to-back SWAC championships was in 1995 and 1996. Let that really, really sit in.
Yeah.
Before he got there, this was a team that was dormant, that had not had a winning season since 2013. So what he was able to do in 3 short years, and oh, by the way, his first season, that spring 2021 season, that accounts for the fall 20 season due to COVID, they had a winning season then. And those were players that he had not even brought in yet, per se. So he didn't really get his real teams at the core until fall 2021 and this season here. So what he was able to do, it's unquestionable. Like, you can't take anything away from what he was able to do. If he's not here, we may not have that success, or Jackson State may not have that success. And I say we because I'm from Jackson. So
okay. I know
Mississippi. So to see that he was able to do that in a short matter of time, I think he's good on that part. I will say this. He did not necessarily have to come in when he took the job in September 2020 saying that, God sent him here and, I want to be able to change the landscape of, HBCUs, get players from the NFL, from HBCUs to be able to create a pathway from HBCUs to the NFL. So did you do that? You helped out. You definitely did. You got James Houston into the league. You got some other players, some other players, some looks in terms of getting potential free agent deals and really playing professionally. So he did that per se. But I can tell you right now, to the average fan, Jackson State fan, to the average HBCU fan, they feel disrespected. And to them, they in such a way, when you listen to them talk, some of it is just based off of emotion, but then some of it makes some semblance of sense too, though, because it's like, had he just said, hey, I'm coming into this program at Jackson State University, and I'm going to make sure that Jackson State wins back-to-back championships, or they continuously win championships, and we're going to get players to the league. Had he said that, check mark.
Yeah.
Checkmate. Everything's good. You did exactly what you said. But there is a sentiment and emotion and a feeling that comes with students, alums, fans of HBCUs, that when you tell them something, when you tell them that you're going to be motivated, dedicated, determined to do the job, knowing that HBCUs obviously have been known to not have the same resources as Power 5 programs, and really just other institutions in general, you have to stand to that. When you tell them that you're going to do that, they expected that. And they also expected it to be longer than 3 years.
Yeah. And I understand. This is one of those, before you go with them, this is one of those, I understand both sides. Right. I understand why there are people that are frustrated with Deion for leaving after 3 years. But I also understand the people that are saying, hey, life is about advancing. Life is about elevating. So
he would have been wrong to not take the opportunity.
Right. But this is the thing, though, too. This is what I thought was crazy. I thought, not crazy, but I kind of was like, really, Colorado? And to me, Wilton, I felt like if you go to Florida State, that's where you played at in college. I get it. But Colorado was 1-11 last year. They was 1-11, or this year. They was 1-11. I wasn't feeling Colorado. I wasn't.
Well, think about it like this. Two things. One, he came to a Jackson State program that wasn't a winning team at the time. Now, great history of winning. Obviously 4 Hall of Famers in the NFL from Jackson State alone. Not even just talking about HBCUs, but just from Jackson State alone. So there's a tradition for winning at Jackson State. But him taking that opportunity to go to Colorado, one thing that I can say that I've realized about Coach Prime is that he loves a challenge. Same way he was in the NFL. Yeah. And so when you look at it from that lens, Colorado is a challenge. And I can truly say there are other programs, even before he got accepted or given the opportunity at Jackson State, that he wanted to be at, but he didn't get it. And Jackson State gave him that opportunity. So now it's like Jackson State gave him the opportunity to become a coach. Well, now it's like, okay, you've been a coach for 3 seasons. We will really get a chance to see how well you can coach, because now you're not at an HBCU anymore. You're not necessarily, at a, how can I say this, more of a lower tiered program. You're at a Power 5 program, and they're expecting you to win right now, just like Jackson State fans were expecting you to win right now. But the difference is your name is Deion Sanders. You're going to get those same players based off of your name that's going to come to your program. But here's the thing. You still got, for now, you still have the USCs that's going to get those same players. Yeah. The UCLAs that's going to get those same players. Arizona State, Washington, Oregon. Like, these other teams are going to be just as dominant as you are.
Yeah. Agree. And I mean, I get it. Like I said, 26-5 in 3 years. They went 11-0. That's the first regular season where they went undefeated. He won the 2021 Eddie Robinson Award. And I think he had like a sponsorship with Pepsi as well.
He had a ton of sponsorships.
He had a bunch of them. And then I think he had a good relationship with American Airlines as well. So
right.
they were traveling real well. So I guess I think sports a lot we debate, and sometimes we want to pick a side. This is one where I truly understand both sides. I get both sides of the spectrum. Well, Wilton, let everybody know where they can follow you on social media.
Well, you can follow me on Twitter at Wilton Reports and on Instagram at Wilton Reports _. On Facebook, it's just my name, Wilton Jackson. And yeah, man, like I'm really glad that you brought me on to your platform and giving me an opportunity to come onto your podcast. I really, really enjoyed this. We have to do it again.
We got to do it again for sure. Wilton, I enjoyed this as well. He's a sports writer at Sports Illustrated, host of the Red Diamond Report podcast. He is Wilton Jackson II. Thank you for joining me tonight, Wilton.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
For sure, for sure.